let's discuss Tesla Bot. We're here September 30th, 2022. Elon Musk and the team at Tesla has successfully created a robot that can walk around on the stage and is using the Tesla technology, the self-driving technology, to look around and observe everything around it and make decisions depending on where they go. And to be completely honest, it was mind-blowing. It was, it was on the West Coast that they did this, so it's like 9:15 at night on a Friday after a long work week, and here I am watching Elon Musk and the team reveal like when I first saw it, when they first did the reveal, it felt like we were watching evolution in motion. It really did. It like I don't know if you guys, I went to a engineering school, so there were a lot of folks from a lot of different engineering backgrounds, and we would all show each other the crazy stuff that's in each other's field. At that time, this is like 2008 to 2015, so like drone technology was getting really big, and of course I was friends with a ton of robotics engineers, and they were all doing some of the pioneering stuff that we see today, leading up to Boston Dynamics. And before Boston Dynamics, there was a lot of videos of robots doing tasks and going through things, and they were attached to tons of wires and power and everything else that you needed, because the technology wasn't there to get it all into the one thing, right? Like the Tesla bot is right now, and the Optimus model that they have, that's representative of what eventually they're going to sell as the first version of this. And Elon just dropped that. And again, take this with a grain of salt. Maybe he spoke too soon, but their intention is to make this scalable, just like Tesla, to use their manufacturing, mass manufacturing, making a ton of these. And in order for this product to be profitable and in their mind affect humanity in a really positive way, to change how hard, difficult jobs are done, and repetitive jobs that injure human beings. This is the pie in the sky idea behind this. They want to sell this for $20,000 or maybe less than $20,000 per Tesla bot. And that number alone, I've still carried with me since the other night when I listened to it. And that's shocking. And watching it walk around was also shocking, because having gone to school with all those robotics engineers, the cool thing about having an engineer in whatever field that you've got an idea about, right? So like space, a lot of people will talk about aliens and going to the moon and going to Mars and stuff like that. So I get a lot of those questions. A lot of the questions that our robotics friends would get is like, all right, what would happen in like a Terminator scenario, or if the robots were going to take over, do we have a shot? And there's always a lot of different answers for that. And I would say some of the smartest ones always are going to show you how difficult all of this really is. And so there's actually, especially back in the early internet days, there were a lot of like compilation videos of robots failing and failing to walk, right? Because what they were doing was setting up these scenarios and making the robot go through it, and they would have to go through it perfectly, but it was very babysat. There was a lot of tethering and wires, and the paths had to be the same every time. And I mean, potentially, if you started the robot off at the wrong angle, at the wrong spot location, the rest of the program would be broken, and the robot would fail and fall over. And they said that this was the first time that bot did this without any of that cabling and wires, and it was fascinating. The amount of joints and reactivity to whatever sensors it had to realize what its balance was. You could like see that the hands and the arms were trying to balance itself, and it was like watching a baby walk or something. It felt like it was learning. And I think that's one of the more shocking things about the Tesla bot thing is what are these Tesla bots going to be able to learn in the ultimate scheme of things? I don't think it's going to be take over the world smart, but it's also not going to be a useless thing. And where it finds its niche is entirely dependent on how people approach the problem of teaching these robots the tasks that they need to do, and then choosing a task that's going to replace human beings and yes, bring more profit to the company, but also make these tasks that are necessary, the dirty jobs, if you will, or the hard jobs, the harsh environment jobs, potentially even areas where human beings would die from being in there and exposed to those things. I can think powder environments, like if you're printing metal powders or plastic powders or places where you'd get that in your lungs, fires and all these other things that you could send a Tesla bot into if they were prepared and trained for it. There's a lot of wild stuff that this could help open up and prepare us for. And from a space perspective, thinking about bringing a Tesla bot with you, kind of like the Interstellar scenario where they had those robots with them and those AI, thinking about what you could do with a trained Tesla bot is fascinating. And it's also really great news for software engineers, because what this means to me, from working in technology and knowing the realities of software and firmware and hardware, combining all together, is you're going to need someone to program that, especially if you're going to teach it the right thing. You need a software programmer, and that software programmer is going to be there with that Tesla bot to eventually write a code so that there isn't human intervention needed. But if you're going to fine-tune that process and get it there, there's first that initial investment of teaching it the thing you need it to learn, and then there's the optimization aspect of that, and dialing in all of these things and improving them over time as the needs change. The robot training will change. So if you're into coding and you're into software design and technology, there is a huge opportunity that's going to be starting here. And I am fascinated by it. I'm terrified by it. But my terror is met with the want and the drive to learn more about it, so that it does not become magic to me. Having a semi-understanding of what they're doing is fascinating. And the engineers did a great project. It's fascinating to see that they've designed it to be effective in many different ways. And I mean in strength, right? The servos that they're using, they're designing them so that the servos don't have to overextend themselves, designing them in a way that they will use a little bit of power, right? So being effective on the power use of things, but then they're also not going to travel that much, and having the right joints that are based off of human biology and making them into robotic technology. It's fascinating. It really is. And I don't know enough about robotics to really know the full effect. I have enough understanding to know that it could be a big game changer. I am concerned existentially about what this means for the people that these Tesla bots replace as far as the workforce, because paying once $20,000 is much cheaper than paying a human being the same, if not more, for the same job, but having to do that every single year. And then having to find new people when those people leave. There is an aspect of this in business life and the workforce that I'm definitely concerned about, and the potential of us, what we do. What do we do in place of that? Are more jobs that people actually want to do going to open up? I mean, it hasn't happened now, so I don't see any evidence of that happening anytime soon, but it's concerning. It's definitely concerning. Which brings me to my last point about the Tesla bot, which is the really fascinating thing that Elon touched on, and he mentioned it a few times, and I do agree that it is the better scenario for Tesla, which is that it's structured in such a way that because it's a publicly traded company, and the people who buy stock in Tesla have voting rights as to the direction of Tesla. That means that people who own stock in Tesla, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to go buy Tesla stock. I do have to say that I do own Tesla stock. I have owned it for a while, but that was mostly because that was the only way that I could help invest in Elon Musk. But again, this is not financial advice. This is just me discussing the topic, um, and the rights that someone who owns stock means that you can vote. And he mentioned this, that if Tesla and these Tesla bots, if the way that they're designing them and using them and trying to push forward things is not to the liking of the people, then the voters, the stock owners, can vote to change that or to stop what it's doing. So it's a very interesting thing. I do think this is now an arms race, though, of bots. So Tesla bot's the first one. This engineering team that created this in a matter of months. I mean, the amount of between last year and this Tesla AI Day, they've done all of the development for this. The last time it was someone in a suit, apparently, according to Elon, and this is the real thing. So there's a lot of progress that's happened very, very quickly, and a lot of that is due to the way that they approach this, the fundamental primary assumptions they were making, and the goals of making Tesla Bot, which they defined really, really well in this presentation. But I can only imagine what is going to happen from different companies who've been working on this probably for a while. There's Boston Dynamics, right? Definitely has a different feel than a Tesla bot. But then there's going to be bots around the country from different countries, from different origins and thought processes, to think about what it means to have a robot, a mechanical android that's worth at MSRP, like at cost, $20,000. That's cheaper than a car, and essentially becomes cheaper than a human in all the needs the human need. Like there is a lot of questions to be discussed, and I would love to discuss them here on the podcast. So if you have any existential worries about Tesla bot or AI or any futuristic things like this, please let us know at Today in Space Podcast. Follow us at Today in Space Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We are at Today in Space on TikTok. And of course, our YouTube page, Today in Space. Subscribe, hit that bell so that you get a notification every time we have a video. We're doing a lot of shorts and putting out clips, so you don't necessarily have to watch the whole episode. You can just pick and choose the parts of the episode that you'd like to hear. So that's it. As always, you can subscribe, like. Those are great ways to share. Those are free ways you can help support the podcast. And then there's our 3D printing lab, ag3d-printing.com, to get a free quote on your next project for 3D printing. There's also ag3dprinting.etsy.com. You can help support the podcast, get a gift for your friend or yourself, or someone for their birthday. The holidays are coming up.